Hey guys, Marcinkin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be talking about the top 10 LRs in Dokkan currently. That's right, it's time for a new tier list. I realised I hadn't done one since September, although I think looking back at the list, with the releases that we got after the GDC, I was going to say the Tanabata, the Transcendent, the Transcendent Dokkan campaign is the Tanabata now. The only release we've had since then really was the LR Gohan and Goten, like corrupted GT ones. And I don't think they would, looking at the list that I have now and looking back at the list that I made last time around, I don't think they would have made it onto that list. However, we do of course have the release of Goma, and people have been going a bit crazy over this guy. He definitely is very, very good, so obviously he makes the list, but where will he be on the list and why? Some of you can probably guess, I'm sure, but obviously we will go into detail and give full explanations in the video as always. So I just want to mention, as I do every time I make a tier list, so those of you who see all of my tier list videos, you know exactly what I'm going to say, but these rankings are entirely based on my own experience with the units and playing with them myself. If you use a unit and every time you use them you get super good RNG, and I use a unit and every time I use them I get really bad RNG, I'll probably have them lower on my list than you would. And it is of course completely situational, which I am perfectly willing to accept. Like, some of you guys might have a higher opinion of certain units just based on your own experiences with the game as well. And whilst I do try and factor in like what a unit should be doing at their best, again, that personal experience comes into it. So we've had experiences in the past, especially characters that rely on dodge. If I've been significantly unlucky with using them, like, I find it difficult to put a dodge or die character as the best unit in the game. But, you know, we'll go into that as we get there. So, as always, I like to mention this as well, of course. You guys know, if you have any disagreements with my placements, I would absolutely love to hear them and why you disagree down below in the comment section. It's always good to have some good discussion, like people just saying that they think a placement is bad but not explaining why doesn't really help anyone. Like, if you want to convince me that a placement is bad, like, maybe it could change in the future, but just saying so and so at number whatever is a terrible choice, like, that doesn't, you know, why? Let me know, right? Let's have a discussion in the comment section. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. We are going to start at number 10, and we start off with the AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku that will transform into the Golden Azaru and then Super Saiyan 4. This guy, I think, is still very relevant on a lot of teams. People might argue, maybe, I guess, depending on what you think compared to some of the units above, people might argue that he should be higher. I don't know, with the units who are going to be above him on the list, whether he should be any higher than this. The one thing I will say is, in very difficult content, like, if you don't transform him early, because sometimes you can get a lucky break and like take a chunk of damage in like the first turn, then this guy comes onto his first rotation and can just transform straight away, which can actually be very beneficial, because then obviously he's giving the support as well as giving the damage reduction, and he has the stacking and everything as well. So him transforming early on is like super beneficial for him. But in harder fights, especially if you do end up transforming later, the Super Saiyan 4 Goku, if he hasn't gotten a lot of build up, I have seen him take a decent bit of damage in some of the harder events in the game. So that can be a downside for him in certain events. So that is something to bear in mind. If you think he should be higher, then let me know why. Let me know your experiences with him. But yeah, I definitely have had situations where he is getting killed by some of the harder hitting bosses towards the end of some of these events, right? So then if we go on to number 9, we have the Tech Gods. I guess we should talk about like the big differences. We have the Tech Gods at 9, and then I have the physical Super Saiyan 4s at 8. Now, one of the things I do with my tier lists a lot now as well is I not only do the 1 to 10 format, because I still quite like that format, just doing a 1 to 10 rather than lettered tiers, but I do colour the tiers as well. So if units are in a tier of the same colour, then it means I think they could be interchangeable, and they are roughly around like that same kind of level, right? But when it comes to the gods and the Super Saiyan 4s, I want to make it clear that I do think these guys are definitely on a different level. They are in different coloured tiers for me, and the Super Saiyan 4s are solidly at 8 with the gods at 9. Obviously, when they're in their base, they are pretty much exactly the same outside of like links, but it's when they transform. Like, I think Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is just so much far and away better than the blue Goku and Vegeta that it warrants him being that position higher, and you know, technically by having the different color, like the actual tier higher on the list as well. Like, I don't think that these guys are interchangeable. I don't really think there are many situations where you could convince me that the gods are better than Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I mean, the big thing is he obviously does want to be run with a character that has Saiyan Raw, because of course that is one of his best links, gives him a lot of extra attack and defense. But some of the better units in the game at the moment, you know, we've got the Mini Daima Goku, we've got the AGL Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Like, it's not like getting Saiyan Raw is particularly difficult for these characters, right? So they are definitely in a very good spot. And I mean, the gods, like, we've got a lot of teams that we can run this guy on. Giant 8 Power gets a load of buffs. GT Heroes obviously got buffed. We haven't had a good Realm of Gods leader in a while. We did get a new Movie Heroes lead recently, I suppose. But yeah, I think that Gogeta is just so much better than the gods that putting these two on the same tier, I think, is kind of crazy. Like, when they first released, like with the anniversary, back when, you know, the 7th anniversary when they came out, maybe there was more of an argument of them being close together, but I think now with the Easy A's, like, Gogeta is just that much better that he is on the higher tier for me than the gods. So gods at 9, Gogeta at 8, and then at number 7 we have Rose. Now, I put Rose as the same color tier as the Super Saiyan 4s because I would argue that in some situations, like if the boss is hitting really, really hard on turn 1, you could argue that like the Super Saiyan 4s are potentially better on turn 1 than Rose. And then obviously you can probably argue quite easily that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is better than Rose, but turn 2 and then until they transform Super Saiyan 4s can sometimes still be an issue, especially in the slightly longer content. Like, you don't want to transform them too early and then nerf the potential that Gogeta has. So on like that second turn around especially, they can sometimes be a little bit of a liability, whereas Rose, I think, is very strong, very solid unit. I really like Rose in terms of just like fun and just using the unit and having fun with them in events and stuff. Rose probably was one of my favorite units from the Global Dokkan campaign. Although when it comes to the tier list, as you can see, because we haven't mentioned one of the other 3 yet, he is the lowest on the list for me out of all of them, which might seem kind of crazy, but it is just one of those things. Like I say, whilst I might find him one of the more fun units to use, I don't necessarily think he is you know, one of the best of the GDC units. But Rose is very good. The thing that lets him down, I think, quite a lot compared to the other GDC characters as well is his leader skill, because obviously as one of the 2 Carnival LRs, he only has one category as his lead. So of course his is super bosses, whereas Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, who is the other character who only got one category as his leader skill for the Global Dokkan campaign, his is GT Heroes, which of course got an absolute metric ton of buffs. And so that team is just like, the GT Heroes team is just significantly better than the Super Bosses team. So Rose's leader skill lets him down a little bit, unfortunately. I really wish that he'd had Worldwide Chaos as like the 220 lead. That could have been so good, but I still think Rose is really good. But he's at number 7, although technically I put him at 7 and these guys at 8. I put them in the same color tier because, like I say, you could definitely argue, especially with having gotten a bunch of stacks pre-transformation, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is definitely better than STR Rose. So STR Rose comes in at number 7. Then at number 6 we have the Gohan, Goten and Trunks unit. This unit I should say, because there's more than one guy. These guys are really, really good and still very, very strong in basically all content that like doesn't disable dodge. As long as the event doesn't disable dodge, like these guys will be good in that event. Because the problem with Gohan is that Gohan can be really strong defensively on like the first turn, but as you get into longer form content, especially when the boss starts to hit really hard near the end, Gohan isn't really as good defensively, even if he has his full passive active with like the permanent buff once you've gotten 12 int key spheres or 5 rainbow key spheres. That gives him a bunch of extra defense and a little bit of extra damage reduction. But he ends up with like 58% damage reduction total. It's once he's lost the turn 1, he has that big damage reduction, so he can be really, really powerful defensively. But after that, really the idea is if you're running their team and you're running the build that is very like youth centric, that you basically just switch over into these guys straight away, and they have the ability to dodge very consistently. So again, unless the event disables dodge, like this unit, really, really good. I like their team as well. A lot of people didn't like the look of the team when these guys first came out, but they've gotten a lot of decent buffs. Youth has some very, very good units. And of course, like we just got the AGL Kid Gohan EZA, which really helps out these guys' team as well. Like I really like this unit and I really like their team. I think they're very, very good and very usable in a lot of the difficult content. Obviously, like I said, it's harder when you can't use dodge as effectively, like if the enemy disables dodge. But overall, I think these guys are really, really good and really, really strong in a lot of the current content. So these guys are at number 6. Now, I put these guys at 6 and this next unit at 5, but I put them in the same color tier, and that is the Golden, Frieza and Gogeta, because these guys are kind of a mixed bag. It very much depends on the event that you're running and the team that you're running them on, right? Because they kind of designed them with this ability to be run with a mix of super and extreme units on the team, so you can take advantage of both of their sets of abilities, or you can just run them on like a mono team of extreme or super to make use of one of the parts of the card. So like for example on Omega's team, just running the Golden Frieza and just staying as the Golden Frieza, having access to his active skill straight away. Or on a super class team, you'll be able to switch over to Gogeta basically straight away. And as long as the event doesn't disable dodge, Gogeta can be very, very effective. Now, the big problem is when the events do disable dodge, it means that Gogeta is not particularly good, especially against tough hitting enemies. And then when it comes to Golden Frieza, he obviously has 70% damage reduction. He only has guard for 5 turns, and then after which it becomes a great chance to guard. And the thing is, he needs to get hit to build up to be able to do damage. So the problem is on turns where he doesn't get to get hit at all before he attacks, he like even a rainbow one is doing like 6 million attack stat. But the counterpoint to that obviously is if you put him in slot 3 and use the active skill, which gives him the target ability, he can easily be dropping over like 100 million. So he can be really, really good in the right scenarios. Short form content, he can obviously be very, very strong. Longer form content is where he starts to become maybe slightly more of a liability as the enemy gets tougher, but it can still certainly be very, very effective. And then yeah, Gogeta obviously can be super powerful, especially in shorter events where dodge isn't disabled. Because the turn where you can exchange, Frieza makes a bunch of tech orbs, which you can then potentially get enough, he only needs 10, to have guaranteed dodge. Then on his next turn, you can use his active skill, do some big damage, change the entire orb field, have another guaranteed dodge turn. And so yeah, he can be super, super good in events as long as dodge is not disabled. So I think for certain events, you could argue that these guys are interchangeable depending on the team setup and the event and everything. But I have the Frieza and Gogeta at number 5. But like I said, I put them in the same color tier so that you can interchange them if you deem fit. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So for the top 4, probably no surprise to most people who the top 4 are going to be, but maybe the order will surprise you. So let's see how we go. So number 4, we have Omega. Now, I toyed with moving these guys around a little bit, and in the end I decided to put Omega at number 4 and Gogeta at number 3, but I put them both in the same color tier. Now, that might sound a little bit crazy, but obviously the whole point of the video is we're going to explain the placements. So I think if you just look at individual performance of like what does the unit do, like how hard do they hit, How tanky are they? I think most people would probably agree. I mean, I don't know. Let me know if you don't. Most people would probably agree that Gogeta is better in terms of just the out and out solo performance. But there's something really just great about Omega. Like, his team is really good. He's providing a ton of support to the team. He is a solid unit himself. Like, he's not as tanky. He's not as much of like a slot 1 wall. He can actually still also hit pretty damn hard, considering his team does have a lot of support and a lot of like good options to buff him up on it as well. So I think these guys, they're both great, but in different ways. Like I say, if you're just looking at like how much damage does the unit put out in one turn, then Gogeta probably takes the cake, especially if you're fighting a boss with a Ki Blast Super and you get a super counter in there as well. But Omega is just so good, and like double Omega team, so many characters can take advantage of getting that support from him, getting all the extra defense. Obviously only the GT bosses characters get the extra damage reduction, but all the other characters getting the extra defense helps them out massively. And so yeah, Omega is just absolutely fantastic. Really good unit, and I think Gogeta is of course as well, but these guys are at 3 and 4, but with the same color tier, like I say. So if you think that Omega is slightly better than Gogeta, then, you know, like I say, they're the same color tier, so I have absolutely no issues with that. So then we move on to the top 2. Pretty obvious who's left and who they're going to be. Let me know if you agree down below with the order. But number 2, we have the STR Blue Goku and Vegeta. So of course that means making his debut on the list, and at the number 1 spot is the LR Goma. Now, I saw someone say in a post, I think it was when I was making the community response post, someone was saying that like there's no way that Goma is better than the Blue Goku and Vegeta. But the thing is, like, there are some events where, I mean, they're not the ones that people normally replay a lot. Like when we talk about the Hybrid Saiyans Blue Zone, we're usually talking about the last stage with the Gohan, Goten and Trunks. But there's the earlier stage where you have like the Trunks that hits for like 12 million or something, right? There are some of these fights where if Goku doesn't dodge against some of these harder hitting bosses, he will take a lot of damage and potentially you will die, like especially if you're not on full HP. Whereas for Goma, like, it doesn't matter really how difficult like bosses are hitting, or how difficult bosses are, how hard they're hitting on turn 1, like especially if they're like slot 1 supering you, because this guy has 99% damage reduction for the first 3 hits that he takes, and as long as the event doesn't disable dodge, he has a 73% chance to dodge for the first 4 turns. And of course, one thing we've sort of seen in practice now as we use this guy is that if he dodges an attack, that obviously doesn't count as one of the hits that will then lose him his damage reduction. So even though technically he can only take 3 hits with 99% damage reduction, he could essentially have like 10 attacks come his way before he actually even receives 3 hits. It all depends on the RNG, of course. Obviously, when it comes to hidden potential, best build for this guy is probably dodge, and you could probably say the same thing for these guys as well. Goku is obviously still very good. The fact that he has the defense raise for all allies with his super attack is really helpful. He's got a good leader skill, obviously, Future Saga and Fused Fighters. Very good. I mean, you could probably argue maybe their leader skill is better than Goma's until Goma gets some more buffs. Like Goma's team, I've made some videos recently trying out his team in different events and stuff, and I have really struggled to come up with the absolute perfect team for him that like works really well in every single event. I haven't quite decided exactly like which one I think is the best, so I will still be play testing a little bit and you know, trying to decide which one I think is the best overall. But yeah, Goma is still very good. I think Goma is one of these insane units. Like if we start getting another series of like longer form events, it will be very clear that this guy is number 1, right? Because the amount of buffs he can get as he goes on in longer content, this thing where like every turn he's on the rotation he gets an extra 150% attack and defense, this applies to things like the turn that he comes in goes giant form and then comes back onto the turn, that counts as him coming into the turn again and getting another 150% attack and defense. Then if somebody else on that rotation uses like a giant form as well, then he comes back onto the rotation again, so you get another 150% attack and defense. So this guy can be absolutely crazy, and if we start getting longer events, he's just going to be incredibly strong. So very, very much I do think that Goma is the best unit in the game. If you want to say that Goku, you think that the Goku and Vegeta are slightly better. I mean, on my list, I haven't put them in the same color tier. I have put them as a definitive 1 and 2. But, I mean, these guys are obviously still very, very good as well. I know some people don't like these guys in the conversation for the best unit in the game, sort of because of what we said right at the very beginning of the video when I was talking about characters who rely on dodge. But there are a lot of events. That's the thing. It's only very few events that hit really, really hard straight away. Like, a lot of the time, there's not a lot of events where, like, turn 1, if Goku takes a super and doesn't dodge, he dies, right? Because he still has damage reduction and guard. As long as you've got the right allies on the team, right? He has 70% damage reduction and a 80% chance to dodge. Sorry, he doesn't have guard, but he has the 80% chance to dodge and 70% damage reduction. So he can still tank a lot of hits relatively well. But yeah, there will be certain situations and certain attacks, especially when we think about the potential for the future. Although, you know, I'm not making the tier list based on speculation, but when we think about the potential future power creep, there's probably events coming up for the anniversary where if Goku doesn't dodge them, you would potentially be in a bit of trouble. Whereas if Goma doesn't dodge them, he's got that 99% damage reduction for the first 3 turns. And obviously, whilst I don't use that in like calculating my tier lists because I'm not a huge fan of Festival battles, obviously this guy absolutely destroys Festival. I've seen screenshots of him near the end at with 600 million attack stat and stuff, because obviously he is probably the most insane stacker that we've seen in the game so far. So yeah, that means we have him at number 1. So if we take a look at the full list here in reverse order, number 10 we have Super Saiyan 3 to Super Saiyan 4 Goku, number 9 the Gods, number 8 the Super Saiyan 4s with Rosé at 7, and they are in the same color tier. So if you think the 4s are better than Rosé, I could see that, let me know. Then we have Gohan, Goten and Trunks at 6, and Golden Frieza and Gogeta at 5, again in the same color tier, so they could be exchanged. We have Omega at 4 and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta at 3, so again, let me know, they could be switched if you feel like they should, but I feel like most people think Gogeta's better than Omega, but like I said, when it comes to team and like supporting the team and utility and stuff, like Omega has his highlights, right? And then we have Super Saiyan Blue Goku at number 2 and the new AGL Goma at number 1. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would your personal top 10 list look like? Let me know your thoughts down below. And yeah, anything you want to know, any extra info, any pointers you have, any feedback, do let me know down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.